The clerk.
Notice number 2, Classification, Publications, Films and Computer Games Amendment R18 Plus Computer Games Bill 2012.
I call the Minister for Justice.
Deputy Speaker, I present the Classification, Publications, Films and Computer Games Amendment R18 Plus Computer Games Bill 2012 and the explanatory memorandum.
Call the clerk.
First reading, a bill for an act to amend the Classification, Publications, Films and Computer Games Act 1995 and for related purposes.
Call the Justice Minister.
Deputy Speaker, I move that this bill be now read a second time. I'm pleased to present to the House this bill that will introduce an R18 plus category for computer games. This will bring the classification categories for computer games into line with existing categories used to classify films and make the Australian classification regime more consistent with international standards. The bill amends the Classification, Publications, Films and Computer Games Act 1995 and makes a consequential amendment to Schedule 7 of the Broadcasting Services Act 1992. Deputy Speaker, this reform has been a long time coming. Agreement to introduce an R18 plus category has been reached after 10 years of negotiations with states and territories. Over these 10 years, the Australian computer game industry has grown, along with the number of Australian computer gamers. Research that's been conducted by Bond University suggests that 9 in every 10 Australian homes now has a device for playing computer games. The average age of Australian computer gamers is 32, with Australian women making up 47% of computer game players. The Australian gaming industry is forecast to grow at a rate of about 10% a year, with forecasts predicting it will reach $2.5 billion annually by 2015. Mr Deputy Speaker, a lot of Australians are very passionate about this reform. When the Australian Attorney-General's Department released a discussion paper on the introduction of an R18 plus classification category for computer games in 2009, they received 58,437 submissions in response. 98% of these supported the introduction of an R18 plus category. My predecessor in this portfolio, Minister O'Connor, pursued this issue throughout his time as Minister for Home Affairs and Justice. Last year he led the discussion of this issue with State and Territory Attorney-Generals at the Standing Council on Law and Justice. At their July meeting, the ministers decided to support this reform. This bill will implement the Commonwealth's obligations as part of this agreement, and State and Territory jurisdictions will follow with their own legislation later this year. It is anticipated that the Act provided for in this bill will come into effect on the 1st of January next year. I commend the bill to the House.